Welcome back, America and Earth, citizens, aliens, whoever you are. Welcome to the Historic American Building Survey, Michigan, Volume 3. We will hit the ground running here. This is the Governor Robert B. McClelland House on Elm Street in Monroe County in Michigan. And what we are told about this delicious-looking building, as the animals freak out around me. We're told the architect is unknown, but it was erected roughly around 1830. We're told it's a two-story house hewn from oak with a field stone foundation. And Mr. Robert McClelland, the most notable of the former owners, came to Monroe in 1833, practicing law with James Q. Adams for about 2 years, and in 1835 opened an office and practiced alone and with great success. He was a member of the Constitutional Convention of Michigan and the state legislature, and the Speaker of the House in the latter year, and a member of Congress also for 3 successive terms, 28 also there. The first governor with a short term under the new Constitution for 1852. He's elected for 2 years. Do you mind? And on the inauguration of Franklin Pierce as president on March 4th, he was appointed Secretary of the Interior, in which office he continued until the end of Pierce's administration. We are told another owner of the home was Benjamin Danzard, who had been an officer in Napoleon's army, and 'twas he who added the West Wing. Excuse me. In any case, this Mr. Who's Who of Who owned a rather delectable home. Look at that. Quite nice. I'd say even if it wasn't belonging to a prominent person, it probably deserves a place on the survey for being an architectural wonder. Forgive the ambient noise the animals are frolicking around me, as I'm having to make do with less than adequate recording situation. Things are in a state of upheaval, as it were. But that's just the peek behind the curtain. Pay me no mind. Instead, you should be beholding the Judge R.S. Wilson home, as featured prominently on your screen, in Ann Arbor, which actually, on an unrelated note, good friends of mine were in a band named Ann Arbor. I understand they achieved some level of fame, despite having never lived there, at least as far as I know. Good boys. Haven't seen them in a bit. But this has 2 stories and a cellar, composed entirely of brick, erected around 1840, but no record of any architect or builder built by the Judge Wilson. We're told that a cyclone removed the roof in 1919. How very rude. In the basement under the dining room was located the old kitchen. The original house had no basement, but later when this portion was excavated, the walls were not underpinned, but the earth was removed to within 3 feet of outside walls and retaining walls built from floor level to grade. Interesting. What is it? In any case, we're told this is the house is the best preserved of this period in this vicinity. So there you have it. And who are these two? Is that Raggedy Ann and Andy? That's a musty reference from the annals of yesteryear. Raggedy Ann and Andy. And if you don't know, now you know. This is the Sinclair House on Pontiac Street in Ann Arbor in Washtenaw County. 1843 was the given date of the initial construction, but as usual, there's no record of any architect or builder. And we're told Thomas Sinclair was the homeowner when it was built, but this Mr. Sinclair moved to Grand Rapids and entered the retail dry goods business. We're told a bathroom was planned at the rear, where originally there was a porch. No telling if those plans came to fruition, as there appears to be still just the porch. I mean, technically, what is this? They've cut this column in twain? It's an odd way to do that. I suppose that's your business. And the Anderson House here on Packard Road, looking rather isolated here, also in Ann Arbor. Lovely detailing up here. All right, that's enough. All right, no further distractions. Everybody's got the levensies around here. With no further ado, or possibly further ado, or at least no apparent ado, do declare the Norman B. Covert House, looking like an everyday Americana type of home here, also in Ann Arbor, and no pertinent information. So we'll just move right along there. If you don't start none, then there won't be none. This is the Benaja Tickner House, also in Ann Arbor. The building structure date is given as 1842, but the architect is as usual unknown. The outbuildings, we are told, were burned in 1924. So there you have it. And this is a interesting round fieldstone faced front, which is interesting. I don't think I have seen that very often out here in this East Coast. And there are no existing records discovered about this outside of what I just told you, at least at the time of this survey, which was taken sometime around 1933. And this is the Judge Samuel Dexter house in Dexter, home to a very lovely brewery. Well, I think it's still there. Founders, right? Built 1826 or so. The architect is unknown, but it is believed Mr. Judge Dexter brought the plans with him when he returned to Dexter from Massachusetts, although it's clearly in very poor condition currently. The original building had very good and fine detail and should be preserved for its historical and architectural value, except it's not, clearly. So, Mr. Dexter was born in Boston in 1792, the eldest son of distinguished statesman Samuel Dexter. Graduated from Harvard, Orthodox Unitarian. He moved to Athens on the Hudson River. He came to Michigan in 1824 with much money, and the first log house in Webster was built by him. It was used for many years, this house, as a place of worship for 4 or 5 different denominations, and was the home for different preachers who came to conduct services. And he also established a private post office in his own house, and the first town meeting was also held here. So he's one of those resetter types, one of these early guys. How many people are judges here? Judge Crane came to Dexter and described it as having only 3 dwellings, belonging to Samuel Dexter, Dr. Cyril Nichols, and S.W. Foster, and 1 mill. So 3 homes, 1 mill, a judge and a doctor, and I presume a mill worker. Mr. Judge Dexter also built the first hotel, which was destroyed by fire in 1860, and the doctor and Dexter also built a sawmill. He conducted a colony of 73 people from New York to Ionia. He bought immense tracts of land in Webster, Scioto, Dexter, Lima, and Superior. Oh yeah, and also Shiawassee, and Lenawi, and Saginaw. And he also laid out Saginaw City, and he also donated land for the courthouse. So this guy basically is the founder of Michigan. He expected Dexter, the old Expector Dexter, to grow. And so he laid out the village into a large wheel, basically, with the streets wider than other villages and arranged like spokes. And that's a lot of history for such a busted-ass little place. But that is what we're told. Ignore it at your own peril. And this is his country house, by the way. So yeah, I guess if you've found half the state, you're allowed to have 2 houses on the historical building survey. There's no record of any architect or builder on this either. And it's speculated in this book here called, it's an article from the Detroit News, December 1st, 1931, called Greek Architecture and Pioneer Homes. And it says, perhaps Judge Samuel Dexter has seen Thomas Jefferson's famous home, Monticello in Virginia, where he chose the site for his country seat. But the two have many features in common. They occupy a commanding position at the top of a gently sloping hill, several hundred yards from the main road, and it has a front entrance protected by a hospitable, high-columned porch, as seen here. Now, even though we're told earlier that there's no record of any designer or builder, still, here we are told that Calvin Fillmore, the brother of the president, was actually the designer and builder. Oh, interesting. Seems like a bit of retrofitting there, With him as a partner was his son-in-law, Sylvester Newkirk, father of Judge Newkirk, who was the mayor of Ann Arbor. These two designed and constructed many a fine home in the surrounding district over the period of several years. When Mrs. Dexter attached a queer tower-like structure, however, to this lovely old dwelling in the 70s, she well-nigh ruined it architecturally. How dare you try to take any sort of creative liberty with your home, Mrs. Dexter? And I don't see this queer tower-like thing, so I guess perhaps it was so allegedly queer that they disposed of it. I don't know, it's not there anymore. That's all I know. Kind of a weird thing to write. All these nice things about him, and then all she gets is she well-nigh ruined it with her stupid tower. Yeah. Miss Dexter, wherever you are, your tower sounds cool to me. I don't know about that article written 70 years after it was built and just shoehorning in Millard Fillmore's son in there. Seems a little suspect to me. I'm gonna go with the original documentation saying that they have no idea who the builder was. That seems to me to be more sensible. Wouldn't you agree? In my mind, you're all nodding yes. Thank you. Where's Billy and Jimmy when you need them? Jerry, whatever their friggin' names were. This is the Methodist Episcopal Church on Plymouth Road in Dixboro in Washtenaw County. And we are told 1858 is the date of initial construction. However, this one we actually have an architect, a Mr. Cooper of Ypsilanti, and a builder, a Mr. Ford. 1 story with the basement wall made of fieldstone, and there are no other existing records discovered. Basement walls have been reinforced with concrete on the inside, we are told, and the upper portion of the tower has been removed. For shame. Oh yeah, I can see here, up there, there's another little lantern bit, which is no longer here. Maybe Miss Dexter took it to put it on her own home and well nigh ruined it. Can we bring back that expression, well nigh? And there's a funky looking building. I mean, look at this little hodgepodge. Not only do you have like a door here, which make no dang sense, the foundation's janky. Look at the columns don't even match. It's like they took these columns from somewhere else and just shoehorned them in there. That's just my reckless speculation. The actual story could be different. Could be. And in fact, it belongs to Esquire Michael Porter. At least that's the name of the house. And of course, unknown architect and unknown builder, and of course in poor condition, and we're told it was erected during the occupancy of the Keeler family. The barn has a piece of stone in the brick wall marked 1853, but the house has been moved to the rear of the lot and is now being used as a tool shed and is in poor condition. And one square column is missing. Also, there's an interior stair and wall torn out. Also, the interior is wrecked. And also, there's a rather ordinary mantel. And Mr. Squire Michael Porter was the district supervisor. That's where he came from Connecticut. Mrs. Keeler, it should be noted, who lived here while it was rather destroyed, was an aunt of Albert Osborne, the handwriting expert. And her husband was at one time superintendent of public instruction. How about that? Well, publicly instruct yourself in how to take better care of our heritage. Thank you. Please pass that message on. I would appreciate that. This here's the Ballard House in Ypsilanti, and a lovely porch, as you can see yourself. The Ballard House was built by another judge, Mercus Lean, in 1832, and it was acquired before completion. After the judge didn't even finish building it when Arden H. Ballard acquired it, and has ever since been known as the Ballard House. Built by a man named James Forsyth from his own drawings. Was it built by the judge or James? Well, anyway, they added onto it in 1925, and that's pretty much all we are told. Here's it from another view. Striking homes, looking very similar to what you see in Georgia in the South, parts of the South at this time. There is a basement, rest assured. This is the Ladies' Literary Club, and oddly enough, the architect on this one is Arden Ballard, who was the guy who owned the last house, but he wasn't the architect of that house, so he also is one of the builders here. In this 1.5 story basement attic containing a brick wonder. No other records discovered, and what a strange association with people on this one. We are told it's a red brick with fieldstone base. The brick walls are 3 bricks deep, and then covered with a sort of concrete to make it look like stone. Excellent trim over there. There, I meant. How kind. It's like they knew. And really a remarkable building built by the guy who just bought the other house that we just saw, but had nothing to do with that building. But this one, oh yeah, he did. Look at that. Lovely. Lovely medallion there. Very odd. And very limited in the information that we get oftentimes in these early parts of these surveys before things get really long-winded. This is the Detroit Arsenal in Dearborn. And what you're looking at here is actually the officers' quarters. There's a number of structures on this site here that we'll give a brief browsing through. And actually, there's no information given about this other than it was built sometime after 1830. You know, it's very interesting how nearly every building, everywhere you go, America, it's either like, yeah, a vague date given before 1850 or 40, or very specific after. It does make you wonder why everything in all these states were settled at the same exact time. But plodding along, and this one with the usual very suspicious and unnecessary submerged basement entrance that we'll see everywhere. Wonder how many offices you got. That's quite the place there. And here is the, well, it's called Sutler's Shop. It's also part of the Detroit Arsenal. Another vague date given around 1830 as to its construction. Clearly of red brick. I guess it's clearly not red, but brick. All right, fine. And this is the Smiths and Carpenters shops, also part of the Detroit Arsenal. And this is St. Peter and Paul's Jesuit Church. I might have known that Jesuits would be here, setting up shop early. There's no record of any builder. There are some architects, Peter Kendikins and F. Letown, and it is made of brick. And it was originally built as the Cathedral of the Detroit Catholic Church, and very little information information about its amazing erection is available. I mean, look at the size of the thing. It's rather remarkable, really. But in 1899, on the occasion of the celebration of the Golden Jubilee, they printed a small history of it, and the copy of this was found in the historical collection of the Detroit Public Library. And so we're told that Reverend Peter Paul laid the cornerstone of the Cathedral of Saints Peter and Paul in honor of his patronal saints. And of course, they had fitting ceremonies. There was originally a tall spire which was supposed to form view of the main entrance, but it was never completed. Then how do you know it was supposed to be there? Henry Urban built the famous organ, which was then the second largest organ in the United States. And they claim that the altar took over a year to paint by Anthony Plodding. The interior of the cathedral was displeasing to the bishop, we're told. The acoustical qualities were so faulty that the pulpit stood in the middle of the church. The voice of the speaker could not be heard in the vicinity of the entrance. So he had the columns reduced to 2/3 of their size, decorated the ceilings, and replaced the old windows with stained glass. This is all in 1857, huh? And there was some other random things added and modified over the years. Look at that doorway. That almost looks like it's got like Asian motif there. Very curious, isn't it? Symbols will be their downfall. Isn't that what they say? So what is this? And this is the original spire that was never completed, they say. This is the drawing of it. Little man down here. And too bad we don't get to see the interior. Well, what an incredible building. I mean, it looks much better here than this little drawing. Well done, sirs. Whoever you are. Whoever you are. Whoever you are. This is a mercantile building in Detroit. And we are told so much about it that I just told it all to you. That's it. That's all we know. I don't even know why even put it in there, in a way. I mean, I guess, whatever. We get to see the picture. But this is St. John's Episcopal Church, also in Detroit. And sadly, with this one, that's literally it. Just one picture. So I guess no information. And that's just absolutely a crime. And I'm pretty sure that someone had to have gone in and removed some of the pictures from this survey, because why would you take pictures of the interior of some of these busted old homes that a judge had and then act like this is just an outhouse and just give it a name? Definitely something going on there. These surveys have been tampered with. But what an amazing building. God, look at this. Just so incredible. It's a shame we don't get to see more of it, at least at this point. At least on this survey. But we'll be back. This is the Sibley house. Yeah, we're going to give more pictures to this than that last one. I mean, it just goes to show you how doctored this scrap is. Well, I guess I was wrong. They don't tell us anything about that one either. But still, you get my point. This is a no-named house. Just it's on Woodbridge Street. It's called the Double House. Very interesting layout, though. I'll tell you that much. Not too much surprising there. Looking like it was built in 2 different eras. Go back inside, little boy. It's not safe out here. This is Detroit, after all. Some of my best friends were from Detroit, and one of them is sadly no longer with us, but they spoke very highly of the city, even though they had to leave it because it was just becoming a complete cesspool. But perhaps it can rise one day back to its former glory that it never really had, as far as anyone knows, but we all just assume that it did. I mean, it had to have at some point, but who knows how far long ago that was. And we're told in 1951 this amazing building was destroyed, this Detroit and Cleveland Navigation Company warehouse. And it was a 4.5-story brick building, and it had rather shallow limestone foundations and brick walls. It was at one point one of the oldest buildings in Detroit. They don't decide to share any of that with us, of how it came to be or anything like that, at least as far as I can tell. But we do get to see lots of photographs of guys doing stuff like this, which I don't know what they're doing, hiding something behind a curtain, or... But this is a very bizarre little slideshow for this building. Tell these pictures are very old. Look at that thing. I mean, it's already beat up this long ago. It's crazy. Looks very much older than it kind of should, in a way. But there it is, folks. There's the Detroit and Cleveland Navigation Company warehouse. Behold, in all of her splendor. The hell happened to this place? There, the guys disappeared. Very curious. Sure what's going on with that door. I thought that door looked funny. I thought I was seeing things, but no, it really is just built like that. They not like us, okay? These doors are built different. Show some respect. The Grand Riviera Theater. Look at this old world banger. Example of a large neighborhood moving picture theater of the mid-1920s. Wow. What a beauty. And what? That's curious, isn't it? I don't recall those being very American. symbols, the griffins. They belonged to another culture, as far as I remember. But what do I know? My lord, look at that inside. Golly. All this for a theater? That is absolutely stunning. And we are told it was built by the Grand Riviera Theater Company, and John Eberson was the architect, who was an Austrian by birth, and he came to the United States at the age of 33 and began the practice of architecture in St. Louis and Chicago and then New York, and then obviously here. And his style was to create an illusion of sitting in a romantic garden with stars twinkling and clouds floating overhead. He made it his own, this style, and all during the 20s. Plans for major atmospheric theater auditoriums flowed from his office. He is given credit for theaters such as the Majestic in Houston and Lou's Valencia in Jamaica, Lou's Paradise in the Bronx and the Avalon, Capitol in Paradise in Chicago, and also in Tampa and Miami and Omaha and Grand Island, Nebraska, Kansas City, Nashville, San Antonio, Akron, Louisville, and it goes on and on and on. And I find it to be absolutely impossible. The masses might not know art, but they feel it. And therefore, from ancient classic and definitely established architecture's borrowed shape, form, and order, we credit the deep azure blue of the Mediterranean sky with a therapeutic value, soothing the nerves and calming perturbing thoughts. Yes, well, no place for perturbing thoughts in this amazing old world banger. My lord, look at this thing. Wonderful. So apparently the auditorium is blue. That's what I'm getting from this. This was opened in 1925, and it continued for several years as a motion picture and vaudeville house. Several years. And in time, however, the finances followed its neighborhood into a decline. Apparently at the time of this survey, it is closed for refurbishment and renewal. Wow, look at that thing. What is going on here? There's far more to this theater than meets the eye, I believe. This is very, very striking and completely overblown out for a theater. Unbelievable. And to give you an idea of the size, I guess, this thing here is 12 feet in diameter and 24 feet tall. Give you an idea of the massive size of this whole place. Now we're told they had a 17-rank Robert Morton pipe organ, controlled by a 3-manual console, and the pipes are kept in different chambers. The organ has been removed from the theater as of the time of this survey. So basically not very long. And these pictures were taken in the 70s, actually. So the thing was in business for like 10, 15 years, and then why are you going to refurbish this thing after 50 years? I mean, that just seems ridiculous. This is like a national treasure. Hey, let that fall into decline. Oh man, look at that.
Unbelievable.
Just look at that friggin' ceiling. All this for a theater. What show could be better than this? I'm cool, man. I'm just gonna hang out in the lobby, dude, and just look around. You guys go ahead and see your show. That's me. That's what I'd say. How beautiful. Well, whoever built it, hats off to you, sirs. Look at the size. Like, get out of here. There's no way. This is a relic from the weird past. Obviously. This is very strange. The amount of wealth and opulence jammed in here is just absolutely incredible. No budget. How could you afford this? How could anyone afford to create this? And for what purpose? Just to be a theater? No way. How amazing is this? Incredible. Every speck that can be detailed is. My mind is blown. Thank you for that one, Michigan. Thank you. This is the Orchestra Hall in Detroit also, and it resembles the typical theater of its day with a restrained and elegant adaptation of Renaissance style. I don't know. Superb acoustics reflecting the ability of Mr. Howard Crane, who is a notable national and international architect of the Movie Palace. This is Detroit's first true concert hall, considered to be the finest in the country. It later became the Paradise Theater. This is how ridiculous this is. Listen to this building right here. This is going to tell you this here. Construction began June 6th, 1919, and the building was first occupied opening night, October 23rd, 1919. So in 4 months, this was ready to go. Opened and ready to go. Yeah. And right.
Unbelievable.
And it's been trashed because apparently the city owns it, seized it for non-payment of taxes, and then apparently let the place fall into decline. Yeah, 6 months. No, not even 4 months. Has there ever been a more ridiculous building story than that? That this building right here took 4 months to create? What is that? You're not even trying. Symbolism up here. That is absolutely ridiculous. That story, they try to pass that off as history. I mean, I don't even know. Obviously, it's in disrepair, but this is a massive undertaking. 4 months, my booty. And I will eat my hat if that's true. It's got a basement. It's a massive building. In 1970, it was bought by Gino's, a fast service restaurant chain, which planned to demolish it until the public outcry led to the place being saved. Can you imagine that? Destroying this to put in a fast food restaurant? The hell's wrong with Gino? Whoever that guy is. The architect, we're told, the 4-month magician, Charles Crane, was born in Connecticut and began his career as a draftsman at age 19. Moved to Detroit at age 20 and worked for Albert Kahn. Albert Kahn, we remember him. That's right. He's the guy who built the Ford motor plant out there in California. And from the beginning, this 20-year-old specialized in the design of theaters. After 23 years in Detroit, he built 250 theaters throughout the United States and Canada, including 50 in Detroit alone. The last one was built in 1921. And I'm going to go ahead and say that BS. I don't buy it. And he moved to England with the Great Depression, and he designed many theaters in that city as well. Of course. All that in only a mere 67 years. Hundreds and hundreds of buildings. Mr. Crane. We're told none of his theaters have a personal style. They're completely eclectic. Oh, really? How about that? And we're told the building's large pipe organ was built by the Herbert Organ Company. After the orchestra's moved to the Masonic Temple, the organ was relocated to a church. All this fine detail that you see here. 4 months. It takes 4 months to draw these friggin' plans. And they claim that they cleared the site from the time of the moment of the removal of the first shovelful of earth. It was 4 months and 17 days. From dirt to this. Yeah, right. You can't possibly tell me. Well, that makes sense. And it was closed from 1956 until 1970. And whoever this Gino guy is, who buys this and tears it down and puts a freaking fast food restaurant? What a bizarre story. Moving on from that tragedy. These are the Sally ports at Fort Wayne, which looks suspiciously like the inside of a staffet we've seen time after time again. Or some sort of culvert anyway. Or a cistern, it's hard to say. But yeah, Sally ports. Okay, I don't think I'm buying any of this stuff this time. Sometimes these stories are plausible, but this is just ridiculous. And yeah, I'd bet my bottom dollar that here, if I had any left to bet, was a stafford. This is the old barracks in Fort Wayne, situated in the middle of that said fort. And really, we're not giving any information about it at this time, so maybe they'll bring us back later. This is the Mariners Church, which was moved apparently. The hell you moved that thing? Get the hell out of here. I know you can move houses, but moving a brick, massive church like that? What? That is quite ridiculous. 1849, we're told it was built. What's going on in Detroit, man? These stories are whack. 2-story with a basement. Just look at this friggin' thing. Built by someone named Colonel John Anderson, who came to Detroit on the first steamboat. And they used an estate. Mr. Anderson and Mrs. Anderson and her sister, Miss Taylor, wanted to erect a church for the mariners. The spirit of the sea prevails throughout the building, we're told. There are life preservers that hang on the wall and an anchor handrail. A maritime-themed church. How about that? I don't know how the hell you move something like that. I really don't. That seems absolutely implausible, the way it's dug in and has a basement on top of that. But it is a beauty. And I know Detroit burned to the ground and everything was rapidly rebuilt, we're told. One of those stories about the great fires and all that. So who knows what went on here, but something about this story just seems silly, at least as far as moving it. Good old Beaver Realty. What's their motto? Had something there. Something with the word damn in it. It's probably going to be terrible, though. This is actually known as the James N. Jones House, where the N stands for no information. Well, actually, not much. Sometime before 1860, no known architect or builder. Attic and basement. He was a shipbuilder, was James M. Jones, who lived in the house and was the owner of a shipyard. This here is the Union Trust Building, notable for its extensive use of metal craftsmanship and the application of vivid colors, yes. This monstrosity. This might be the first sort of skyscraper building, if you call it that, has been featured on any of these surveys. Kind of interesting there. Also known as the Guardian Building. It is 40 stories high. That is literally all we're given. How about that? We're told it's made of granite, brick, and tile, and that the elevator doors are metal with orange, blue, and black glass manufactured by Tiffany of New York. What is this? Is the entrance? What in the ever-living bleep is this? You have got to be kidding me. This is the entrance to this building? What sort of pagan stuff is going on here? What is the purpose of this? This looks like an Aztec temple you'd enter when you're for sure about to get your head cut off and your heart ripped out in front of you and sacrificed to some sun god. This is preposterous. And that is literally all that we are told about this building. No mention of this. Just gonna say, extensive use of decorative stuff. Yeah, I'd say so. Unbelievable. Who conducts these surveys in such a haphazard, strange fashion? Founded on the principles of faith and understanding, continuing the ideals of financial service. Yeah, that makes sense. You guys get the connection there? That clock. What the hell is going on here? And just these little bored people in these little booths. What a complete mockery. Whatever this building was designed for, it cannot be just to be this bank.
Unbelievable.
What is this? This has to be like a repurposed. I'm not saying that, maybe they added onto it, they added a bunch of stories on top of it, but this is very ritualistic looking. I don't even know what to make of this symbolism. This is blowing my mind right now.
Unbelievable.
Even the tellers' little gates are fancy like that. Wow. Oh, that blends right in.
Unbelievable.
And what have we here? Jeez, Detroit. Detroit is insane. I mean, I knew, but I didn't know, you know what I mean? And usually these surveys are really the muted side of things. They rarely take us to these places that are so outlandish. Usually they're kind of pruned or preened out of these. So it's very, very interesting. And surprisingly, it's not a complaint. It's pretty amazing that this is on here. I'm a little floored by the audacity that they would just give us a generic piece of paper with the most limited information and think that that was okay to represent something like that. I'm just baffled by that logic. Surely that can't be what the program was set out and intended to do, not by their mission statement anyway, as far as these surveys go. But anyway, this is the Christ Church. So it's Christ Episcopal Church, that's it. That's all we're told. And also, we're told the cornerstone was laid in 1861. That's it. That's all you get. One picture and that. I mean, what an absolute joke. This little last stretch of buildings might be single-handedly one of the most suspicious stretches of buildings that we've come across in all the 10 states or so that we've done. This is wild. I don't know how anyone with a functioning brain can look at what we just did and accept those stories with a unflinching belief. This is just so bizarre and so obviously not from us. What I mean by us is obviously our incarnation, this version of America, whoever we are, these settlers that came here and all that. No way. This is the first bank in Detroit, looking rather dumpy by comparison. Then again, pretty much everything would look dumpy by comparison to that last stuff. And I don't expect there to be any information about this, and my expectations are met. Oh my. And then here we go with this. Look at the buildings next to it. Normally on a regular day, this building here would be fantastic, but then you come to this and it's like, what? This is so out of place and out of time. No wonder they had to just destroy this city. Because you can't have this. I mean, even if it's still there, you gotta beat the people down around it so much that they're not even looking. This is insane. This is the 4th Street Presbyterian Church. Yep. And you know this is going. We are given not a single speck of information about this in this survey, except for brick steeple, cornerstone laid 1853 and completed 1855. That's it. What an outrage. And one picture. No interior, no close-up, just across the street, a blurry picture. What a joke. And then we get this. Oh, of course. Yeah, we need multiple pictures of this. This is really going to tell us what Michigan's all about. This picture right here. Look at that. Thank you so much, survey. Look, that's amazing. Well, now tell me what I'm looking at here. But nothing inside this. I can't even, man. This is absolutely insane. I can't even end it on this note with these people in this faded old field, like whoever they are, looking creepier than hell, in this uncut grass. Nah, we're gonna end it on this note. I'm gonna go lie down and think about what a strange, scary place we live in. I'll see you all soon. The frick was that?